Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video we'll be going through all the news and information shared today during the Adepticon 2023 online preview for Warhammer 40k 10th edition. We've got a lot of information to get through, loads to unpack. They shared so much, it was unreal. We saw some new models, but most importantly, we got some great news on the rules, which are going to be free. How cool is that? And we also got to find out little bits about how the rules are changing. And so I think today was a really good online preview. Hour and a half long, so I'm going to try and condense it down so you get all the best bits, none of the fluff, and find out exactly what you can expect from this new edition of Warhammer 40,000. The word that kept popping up today was streamlined. Everything's being streamlined. The rules are being simplified, but they did stress that although the rules are simplified, the game will not be simple, and so that's what we like from it. It's really fun to have a game full of rules and in-depth tactics and lore and different things we need to learn to get good at it, but it did get a bit too much with the stratagems, and so there's some really good news on that. Also, the data cards are being changed completely, and they look fantastic. And I'll be breaking down each of these points and going through all the information that they gave us during the preview. So should we have a look at the models first, and then we'll come back and look at the rules and what we can expect to change in 10th edition. First up, we got to see a very action-packed video introducing us to the new models and the new 10th edition. So if you want to check that out, it's over 4 minutes long. It's on the Warhammer community site, so definitely worth watching. There's lots of cool info in there. Again, we'll break that down. But let's look at the models. So first up, we've got the new Warhammer 40,000 Terminators. Now, I've got to be honest, when I first saw these, I'm like, yeah, they haven't changed that much. Not really that impressive. Certainly not the wow factor. But the main thing that they're going to be doing with these models is increasing the size. So now, when you compare them to the Primaris models, they're going to make a lot more sense. So that's a good thing. And here you can see them lined up. We've got an Intercessor on the left, the new Terminator model in the middle, and then the old Firstborn version of the Terminator on the right. Now, they did say this isn't a Primaris Terminator, it's a Terminator. And they're going to be bringing everything you'd expect a Terminator to bring. They're going to be walking powerhouses, as they described them in the online preview, juggernauts of hate, but being brought up to scale, making them taller than the Primaris model is a really good move. But they're not Primaris, so that's very important. I'm not sure what that means for the older version of the Terminator. Is they just going to disappear now? Is this going to be it? This is going to be the only ones we can get hold of? We'll have to wait and see on that. But the lore-wise, the idea is that any Marine or any type of veteran can become a Terminator, whether a Firstborn or a Primaris. And with the suits, keeping them to look very similar, almost exactly the same as the older versions, is all tying in with the lore and the idea that these suits are relics and they can't be improved upon. These are thousands of years old and they're as good as it gets. That's the thinking behind it anyway, as they described it in the online preview. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Do you like what they've done here? Is it good that we're getting the new improved size? And would you have liked to see them changed a little bit? Let me know in the comments section down below. But overall, they're a lot crisper. They're going to come with some nice poses, better size, storm bolters, power fist cannons, all the weapons you'd expect. So no real change. They're really sticking to this idea of them being relics and keeping to the old design. Now we've got some termagants. They're going to be going up against the Tyranids in 10th edition. This is going to be a huge part of the lore coming up now, and so we can expect some really exciting things to come. But here's the new termagants. When I saw them, I didn't really notice much difference, if I'm honest. Again, it's going to be a crisper. They're a tiny bit bigger. Let's compare them to some other models. Here you can see that they're stood next to the Intercessor, the old version of the termagant. So not much taller, but the base is definitely bigger. Usually it's going to be a 25mm base. It looks like they're on 28mm, which could be a problem if you want to use your old miniatures. I don't know what's going to happen there. We'll have to wait and see and find out more and definitely get it confirmed that that is a larger 28mm base, because that could have some effect if you're already a collector and don't want to upgrade your bases, change them, or upgrade your termagant models. Much like the Terminators, they've kept this the same really, just updated it, made it crisper, more bolder, and yeah, just an updated design. You might get a better effect, like they talked about in the preview, with contrast paints on this, because there's a bit more texture, a few more contours in there to collect that shade. And yeah, I think they're going to be really easy to paint. That's always a bonus, with some contrast, some dry brushing, shades, very simple. But not a massive difference, not a big improvement on the model, keeping it classic. But I think this is just a taster, and we're going to see some really good models later on when we get some new units. That covers the new model reveals. Now let's have a look at the rules. So there's some big changes in store for 10th edition. That's something that they really emphasised, and the idea that it's simplified but not simple. The rules are going to be less dense but still complicated enough to make it challenging and keep it fun. Each army should have all their rules on one page, and on average they're going to have 6 stratagems that are specific to the army, as well as some common stratagems that everybody can use. If you choose a sub-faction or maybe a different chapter of Space Marines, for example, then you'll get a separate page of rules that you would use for those, and a separate set of 6 stratagems. So it's going to be very easy to flick between armies. Everything's going to be in one place, easily to hand, and it gets better. Wait till you find out about what they're doing with the data cards later on. There's going to be some key changes to phases. There'll be no psychic phase anymore. They're going to be tied into the abilities of each model or unit, and you'll be using them, for example, in the shooting phase instead now. So that's a really big mix-up. There's also going to be a battle shock phase, so expect something similar perhaps that Age of Sigmar has, which I think is really good. The stratagems are the big one for me. I think this is brilliant. I really like the idea of 6 stratagems per faction, and then you've got variation by changing those stratagems for each different sub-faction. I really like that. I think it's brilliant. You've also got those common strats, so it's very easy to remember what each player can use, because you're going to be drawing from those same common strats, and then you've only got to learn 6 others for each enemy army. That's really good. That's definitely doable. And again, it's very similar to Age of Sigmar, it's sounding, in the amount of information we're going to have to remember if we want to know our enemy. And that's a big part of the game. Knowing your enemy makes a huge difference. And they also mention there's going to be fewer command points as well. So expect to not have so many at once. You can't use them all at the beginning to buff up like your army. Maybe you want to do an alpha strike and go crazy with stratagems and using your command points. Now you won't be able to do that. You have to be a little bit more careful about when you use them. Here's a big change. All the new index rules are going to be free. The free core rules are going to be free. And the data sheets for all armies are all going to be free from day one. And they said that's evergreen. That's always going to be free. How cool is this? This is something they really needed to do. With the amount of times they change everything, the expense for buying the codexes and then having to update them very soon after you've bought them often. This is fantastic. This is really going to open up the game to everyone now, and I love that they've done this. The rules have been free anyway, the basic core rules, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how much more information they put in the free core rules. Hopefully it'll be the complete set, but the fact that you'll be able to get all the data sheets for every unit, for every army for free from day one is just a massive improvement to the game, and it's going to make a huge difference. The army planning rules sound really fun, and they've updated this completely by the sounds of things. Again, streamlining it. The data sheets have changed. They're going to be focusing the roles of the units now more. So rather than using stratagems to do certain things, you'll be using the units themselves to do it. So each unit is going to have a very important role, and all their abilities and everything are going to fit onto one card. And then, as I mentioned earlier, all the rules for your army should fit on one page. So you're going to get everything really close to hand. When you're playing, you're going to have your army rules to hand on one page, and then the data cards are going to be sold as they sell war scrolls for Age of Sigmar. Another brilliant move. This is going to make things so much easier. You can literally pick up that card and have everything you need for that unit in your hand, really clearly laid out, easy to read. I think this is a fantastic change. All these changes are going to make the game quicker to play, but don't worry, you're still going to get that tactical depth. So that's very important too, and so that's a really good thing to point out, that although they're making these changes and it seems simpler, you're still getting that depth. And now you can concentrate on the tactics a bit more and learn everything about your army and all the stratagems they can do, and then decide on some ways to play with that in mind, whilst also knowing a lot more about your enemy. So that's a big improvement. Having a game with so many rules like it is at the moment is just really difficult to learn, and if you don't play it very often, it can spoil the experience for sure. So I really like the sound of all these changes. Let's have a look at a data card. So this is going to be the new layout, or at least what they showed us during the preview. And this is an example from the Termagants. You can see it's a little bit different. You still got the movement, toughness, the save, the wounds, leadership. There's a new stat up there now. That's OC, and that stands for objective control. And this tells us how many points a model is going to count when you're deciding who's going to claim the objective or control the objective. So if you're in range of the objective, it's going to be 2 objective control points. They're getting rid of OBSEC, so that's gone. That's going to make things easier. It's going to be very clear exactly how many points each model and each unit counts now towards that objective control. So I really like that, because whose objective secured, then working that out is another layer to add to things when you're trying to play the game. But now having it on the data card like that, brilliant. You may have noticed that attacks are not at the top of the card now. Now they're tied in with the weapon stats. That makes it much easier too. So we can just look straight at the weapon. We immediately know how many attacks we have to make. But doing everything in the same order when we make our attacks is going to be the same. And in this example, you're going to be hitting on a 4+, and then you'll take your strength, compare that to the enemy's toughness, and that's exactly the same as what we see in the current edition of 40k. Then you've got all the abilities in one place. I like how they put it to the side actually, rather than underneath. I don't know why, but I feel like that's going to be easier to recall, remember, so that's nice. You've got faction keywords and then other keywords as well. Nice layout, really like that. Crisp, looks simple. Can't wait to see more of this. If you've been a fan of boarding actions, then don't worry, this isn't going to change. They've designed it so it's compatible with 10th edition and the rules will not be invalidated. So that's good that they mentioned that, because I think a lot of people might have invested in this, certainly the books and everything and the terrain. So that's really good to know. There's a new way to play with new 10th edition called Combat Patrol, and I'm sure you're familiar with Combat Patrols. You can buy these box sets, but now Combat Patrol simply pitches one of those Combat Patrol box sets against another Combat Patrol box set. So that's really easy. You literally have that army put together and then you just go one against the other. Brilliant. So it's going to be very similar to Kill Team. You just buy the box and then the rules will be free for each box. Get those online. That's really cool. They said in the preview that the rules are going to be a little bit different, but it's still Warhammer 40,000. It's still 10th edition, and so the rules are going to be free for that too. Again, evergreen rules, and you'll be using the same abilities as you do in the standard way to play the game. And architecturally, the game is the same. Dare I say this is a skirmish version of Warhammer 40k, so that's pretty cool. And I just really like how simple this is. It's going to make the game much more accessible, certainly to new players. Maybe you want to try an army but don't want to spend a load of money. Pick up a Combat Patrol, maybe even borrow a Combat Patrol for your friend and give it a go. So I really like that they've done this. And also, at this point, they mentioned that Forge World are also getting free rules as well. So any of the Forge World models will get all the free rules alongside the others. Brilliant news. That's pretty much covered all the main points that they brought up. There's a few other things to look at, so let's go through those now. There's a new app which is fully functional with the Army Builder, and that's going to tie in with the launch of all the new rules. There's a new website coming as well, so when 10th launches, everything's going to be ready to go. There's Crusade rules they mentioned. This is still going to be a big part of the game. It's not going anywhere. And if you've been playing an army in Crusade and you want to port it over to the new 10th edition, you'll be able to do that too. So that's great if you like playing the campaign side of the game. A few other points they said or mentioned is that their game is going to be more dynamic now. Stratagems are going to be in opponent turns as well. So this is very much like Age of Sigmar, I think. We're going to get a chance to react in our opponent's turn, which I really like. Lethality is going to come down in general. Cover is going to work slightly differently. And AP values are going to be lower. There's going to be a higher level of toughness on vehicles, and we can expect some vehicles to be higher than 11 apparently. So this is going to make that armour certainly more robust. It's going to remove that idea of plasma guns destroying them easily. So plasma isn't necessarily the answer anymore, and you might see the plasmas, instead of wounding on a 3+, a 5+ now. So all this sounds very good. I like this. Maybe they're bringing in some things from Horus Heresy that work nicely. It sounds like there's a lot of influence from Age of Sigmar rules coming into this. I think we've got lots to look forward to. It looks great. and I can't wait to find out more. But that pretty much sums up everything discussed during the online preview, and if you want to check out the video that's running now, that's available on the Warhammer community site with loads of articles too, and I'll be doing loads more videos because there's an awful lot to go through for this new edition. I imagine over the next few weeks and months ahead, as we wait for the summer release, there's going to be loads to cover. That's taken care of the 10th edition news now, and if you like Kill Team, check out the video I've already got up on the channel. I'll link to it at the end of this one, where we see everything included in the new Gallowfall set. Looks brilliant. There's a new model for the Lion L. Johnson, I'm sure you've seen it already. Then there's some great models for Age of Sigmar, including Croxigors, some Soulblight Gravelord news, and Underworlds gets 2 very nice warbands. So lots to look at, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it gave you a good idea about what was covered today in the online preview. Now you don't have to watch it all if you only wanted to find out about 10th edition. So thank you for watching. If you did like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I look forward to seeing you here next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'd like to say a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping me keep going with these daily videos. I really appreciate your support, and I couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much. And if you'd like to join the community and support the channel, there's a link below. It'll be awesome to see you over on Patreon.